Today, we're going to talk about something that's often described as living under a constant gray sky. We're going to break down persistent depressive disorder, what it is, what it feels like, and most importantly, how to find a path toward hope and getting through it.
You know, this quote, it just hits the nail on the head. It perfectly captures the feeling. We're not talking about a big, dramatic thunderstorm that comes and goes. No, this is more like a permanent, dreary overcast that just hangs there, coloring everything in your life. It's a tough feeling to explain, but this image gets really close.
So, what does that really mean, day in and day out? What's it like when the sun just feels like a distant memory you can't quite recall? That's the question we're really going to dig into as we go from this feeling to the actual facts.
To really get this condition, you have to connect with that feeling first. So before we jump into all the clinical terms, let's just sit with this idea of a constant gray sky, because that experience, that feeling, is what leads someone to look for answers in the first place.
Okay, so let's put an official name to this experience. That long-term gray sky, it has a clinical name. And you know what? Understanding that name is often the very first step toward finding some breaks in the clouds.
So here it is, persistent depressive disorder, or PDD for short. You might also hear its older name, which is dysthymia. The most important words are right there in the name. It's long-term and it's chronic. This isn't just a bad mood that passes. For many, it becomes their baseline state of being.
And when we say long-term, we're not kidding. For a doctor to diagnose PDD, these feelings have to be there for 2 years or more. Just let that sink in for a second. 2 years. That incredible length of time is really what sets this disorder apart. So, you might be wondering, well, how is this different from major depression? And that's a great question. Think of it this way. Major depression can be like a hurricane, incredibly severe, but it comes in episodes. PDD, on the other hand, is like a constant, miserable drizzle that never, ever stops. The symptoms might be less intense, but they are absolutely relentless. It's that chronic, grinding nature that just wears you down.
All right, so what does this actually look like in someone's daily life? Let's take a look at the specific signs of what it means to live under that constant gray sky.
So it's so much more than just feeling down. It's this deep, bone-weary fatigue, like your internal battery is always at 10% and never fully recharges. It's that inner voice of low self-esteem that just becomes your default narrator. It's having a really hard time focusing on things, whether at work or at school. And yeah, it can show up physically too. Maybe you're sleeping all the time or not at all. Maybe your appetite is all over the place. And slowly, you start losing interest in the things you used to love. All these little threads weave together and create this new, draining normal.
And this is absolutely crucial to understand. So many people with PDD seem totally fine on the outside. They're going to work, they're meeting up with friends, they're handling their responsibilities. But on the inside, they are running on fumes, completely and utterly drained. This hidden struggle is a huge reason why PDD can go unnoticed and undiagnosed for so long. It's like carrying around an invisible weight that no one else can see.
Okay, so we've defined what PDD is and what it looks like, but the story absolutely does not end there. So let's shift gears and talk about the path forward. Let's talk about support, treatment, and how to find those much-needed breaks in the clouds.
The approach to managing PDD is really a team effort. It's not just one thing. It often involves therapy, like cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, which is fantastic for learning how to challenge those negative thought patterns. Sometimes medication, like antidepressants, can help rebalance things chemically. And you should never, ever underestimate the power of simple lifestyle changes. Getting consistent sleep, moving your body, and even just getting a little bit of sunlight can make a huge difference.
This is such an important thing to remember. For a condition that's defined by how long it lasts, the healing process is also a journey, right? It's not a race to a finish line. It's all about having compassion for yourself and celebrating the small steps, the little bits of progress. It's not about demanding some kind of instant, perfect cure.
And that really brings us to our final and most hopeful point. Getting a diagnosis like this can feel, well, it can feel heavy, but it is not a life sentence. In fact, it's the opposite. It's finally getting a map that can show you the way forward. It's about seeing that there really is hope on the horizon. If there is only one thing you take away from this entire explainer, please let it be this. Persistent does not mean permanent. I'll say it again. Persistent does not mean permanent. With the right support, the right strategies, that gray sky can and it does clear. Feeling hopeful and stable again is absolutely achievable.
So I'll leave you with this to think about.
Knowing what we now know, that so many people might be walking around looking totally fine on the outside, but feeling completely drained on the inside, how can we be more compassionate? How can we create spaces, in our friendships, in our families, at work, that really allow for more hope and more healing? It's something for all of us to consider.